Hey everybody, it's Michelle LaVore and
Devin LaVore
coming at you. And we're so glad that you're here. And we just pray that you are blessed by what the Lord has to share through us with you today. And
it's an honor and a delight.
It is. It really is. And also, we want to just give a huge thank you for everyone who continues to give to us. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Yes.
And we are coming into a new week, and so if you can give to us, we would just really appreciate it. And
by the time they watch this, it'll be Sunday.
That's true.
So,
yes.
Lord, send the rain.
Yes.
You know? We're praying for much abundance.
Yes.
You know, that's what we're looking for. But the Lord, we're in the Lord's hands, and He's going to just do what He's going to do.
Yes. And so if you would like to give to us, you can. We have a PayPal link below, and you can just click that. And so I guess we can go ahead and get started. We're basically going to be talking about the Scene 18 from our...
Act 1, Scene 18 of the Restoration play.
Exactly.
Did I steal it from you?
Yes, but
Sufficiently?
You did a
it was
beautiful
like a little pickpocket thing. I just came up and just took it from you.
Yeah, that's
Ain't no
right.
pickpocketing. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, what do we feel like? I feel like this week, it's the 33rd week of the year, but it's the Act 1, Scene 18 of this Restoration play, which means we've been in this place for 18 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The faithfulness of God is crazy. The blessing of the Lord, and the fact that, man, we could not be doing what we're doing unless God was involved, But in the midst of it, man, I feel like this week has been, 18, the number 18 prophetically means generally like a release from bondage, a release from the prison, a release from captivity, that kind of thing. And if you, as you begin to study prophetic numbers, you'll see a lot of numbers kind of mean the same thing. They kind of point to the same thing, but at a slightly different angle on the meaning, Kind of like a lot of English words, or a lot of words in general. They have the same meaning, but there's a slight spice to it that makes it a little different than the other words. But I just feel like this week's been kind of like a week of like surrender and compassion. And it's more about the preparation, I think I think everything God's doing is on the backdrop of preparation.
Yeah.
It's like, so preparation is always preparation is the roux. That's the thing that you're using to just to like, it's the flour. It's the thing that you're using for whatever you're doing. But I feel like this week's been more centered on like surrender and having moments of compassion. I've had a lot of moments of like where God's just opened my heart to maybe what it's like for Michelle and the kids in different situations. So there's been a lot of relational compassion being sewed into the tapestry. But then ultimately, I think the big thing is just like surrendering the vision, surrendering the dream, releasing. See, it's like that release from bondage, release from the prison, and it's like it's a weird concept. I don't know if you can tell I'm struggling, but it's like it's been a really hard week. It's been a hard week. I feel like we've been getting punched and kicked and rocked in our soul like all week. There's been certain things that have been popping and just going not right, and just like things that have just like that have challenged us. And in the midst of the challenge, we have just been learning how to just let things go. Surrender it. It's like, listen, the Lord has brought you this far. Can you maintain yourself? You can't. The Lord's the one who gave you the vision and the dream. Can you make it happen? You can't. The Lord is the one who ... Can you make that ... No, you cannot. So it's like, but a lot of times, there are certain things that come up to challenge us. The time frame. When is this going to happen? Are these certain things in our lives? Is this ever going to change? And so there has been a lot of learning how to just surrender the vision while holding on to it. See, that's the difficult part. And what the Lord's really brought up is like, for me personally is just letting go of my hands on it, but recognizing that when I let go my hands of it, like, I'm still in the hands of God, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, I know this is going to sound weird, but at the same time, you are still holding on to the promise in your heart. Kind of like what Mary did. You know, she stored these things up in her heart, you know. And the Lord gave me this vision. I know this might sound contrary to what I just said, but the Lord gave me this vision of like a football player running with a football, and as I get loose in my wondering about what God's going to do, and there can be a pious religious, well, Lord, whatever your will is, and then it's like you're not gonna hold on to the ball like that. You're loosening your hold on the ball, and he's like, the enemy can come and just smack it out of your hands. He's like, no, I want you to hold on to it. And I'm like, I thought you were wanting to we're doing a let it go and an embrace at the same time. Wait a minute, this might be the Lord. You gotta die in order to live. You gotta let go in order to embrace, you know. And what it kind of took me back, this week really kind of took me back to that week 15, week of death, where it talks about like we felt like the sentence of death, the very sentence of death was upon our lives, but it was so that we would trust in God and not ourselves. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like there's been a revisitation of that this week, in a sense that you want to hold on to the promise. Don't let your faith go in the promise, but let all the anxiety go about how it's going to happen. Let all the fear go about, well, maybe it's not going to be what we thought it was going to be and we're going to be disappointed. You know, let that stuff go. So see how God can be telling you to hold on to one thing, but then he's telling you to let go of one thing. He's saying, hold on to the things that are from my heart, but let go of your tentacles and tendrils that are attached to it, saying, oh, well, then it's going to happen like this, and it should happen like this, and this is what it should look like, and this is what, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also a good example, and something that the Lord has brought up this week, is running in a race.
Oh, and, my gosh.
Yeah, it's
unexpected, right?
And I think that's part of, like you said, this whole week has been on the backdrop of preparation, which we talked about in our last video about change is coming. And I really think it's interesting too, because I feel like the first half of this week was a particular, like the get ready to receive and all of those things. Mm-hmm. And then like really midweek, honestly, it was after we did our video, things really shifted into this surrendering, deep surrender, and kind of a, you know, letting go of things. And then, so with all of that though, there was also this picture about running. And we were watching all these different videos of like,
I don't even know how we got on it.
Amazing run. Well, yeah, we got on it because our son, he was trying to do a better time on like the treadmill downstairs, and he was like, I'm gonna go really fast, and so then we were looking up fast runners and things like that.
That's how.
But it was just this kind of idea about these runners, they're ready to go, and just they're sprinting forward. And God, he spoke about, you know, gird up your loins, and also just get ready to run, and the picture of being in a gate and, you know, being released, and like horses running and things like that. And so with all of that though, I think the picture is a lot of times when we are, you know, you're ready for the race, you know, but you've got ankle weights on, and you've got just things that are, you know, maybe you could even have a vest that is a weighted vest. Well, if you have all of those things on you, you're not going to run as quickly as you can, because you've got this extra weight. So you have to you have to let go of all of those things, you know, and I really feel like the Lord is like, I'm going to take ankle weights off. I'm taking the vest off. I'm taking the weights that have been put on, and taking you off from those burdens. And I think even for me personally, a lot of it has been even like the way I imagine the Lord might do something.
Yeah.
And it really is a weight
The
because
fulfillment of the promise, really.
because
right?
God's like, I want you to be able to just run with me. But if I have all these ideas in my head of like, well, this is how I think it should go or what it might look like, that will actually hinder my ability to run.
Yeah.
And I just believe that's been part of the preparation this week, where God is like, I want you to be completely free, to not have any weights on you, and to just allow me to just move my spirit, and you're able to just run as quickly as you can with me. And so I feel like that's really kind of that you're still in the race. You're still going to run. You still have this path in front of you, but instead of being running and it's cumbersome, God's like, here, let's take all these things off so that you can just run swiftly with me. And so it's like, it's not like you're being taken out of the race or something like that. And I think that's kind of where the holding and embracing, but also letting go.
Well, and when you have those ideas about how you think something's going to go, and you really feel like, or just, there's been some things this week that have just totally fallen apart, and it crushed me. And I was just like, wow, because these things, it's really just one particular thing.
Yeah.
But then there was other things that were piled up on it, and they all happened in one day.
Yeah.
I had like a little Costco little nugget of Job when they were just coming one at a time. While this one was given a bad report, another bad report was coming in. While that bad report was coming in, another bad report was coming in. I'm just like, dude, this is not good. What is going on? What is happening? And I felt like I got really punched in the stomach. I mean, I was down. I mean, I was doing okay, but I was down for like 2 days, just not myself. And I just felt like so bummed out because the ideas that I had about what I thought maybe was going to happen or whatever, even those ideas, when those ideas began to fall apart, you get disappointed. And you think, it's kind of sound funny, particularly for those of you who might have kids, because when your kids come to you with their disappointments, sometimes you want to relate to them, but sometimes you want to laugh because it's just like, oh, well, you're totally missing. But it's like, I think the funny part is like, why do we get disappointed? Because we think this great grand thing that we thought of, God can't top that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, if that's not going to happen, then it's definitely going to be less than what I was hoping, because there's no way God could come up with something greater than I imagined,
Yeah.
And then when you say it out loud, you kind of go, well, that sounds dumb. But you're not saying it out loud.
No.
In fact, you're not even consciously thinking that all the time. It's just kind of simmering in the background, what they call in Star Trek subroutines. You know what I mean? They're just like these little things that are just, you do think these things and you believe it. You're just not constantly like right in your face aware of it all the time. You are aware, but it's not like it's on simmer on the back burner, And so it's like, that's kind of what was hitting me this week. And I'm just like, you know what? But it goes into the surrender thing, because God had been working in you surrendering things. And even up to this day, we've been like, Lord, whatever your will is, and you're going to make a plan for it. No matter what we're going through, you're going to make a way. Like we read Psalm 114 today, because I've been getting the 114. I'm like, man, I feel like it's Psalm 114, but I don't know how it fits yet. What are you saying? And then this morning, with our God time, it was like, God is going to make a way. When he is ready to get up and move and deliver you out of Egypt, the mountains and the hills will skip like rams. The Red Sea will be like, and it'll part. The Jordan will be like, here, come this way. It's like nothing's going to get in the way of God. Isaiah 45 verse 2, he's going to bring down mountains, lift up valleys. Zechariah 4:7, he's going to bring the finishing gable stone, and he's going to speak grace to it. And all these things began to flood, and it's just like, man, it's like we need those encouragements. The Holy Spirit is the number one encourager of our life. Not a YouTube video, not you know what I'm saying, not a song, not a book. The Holy Spirit gets all the glory for bringing the encouragement that we need when we need it, because we are his, and he takes care of those who are his. And so it can be kind of funny when you really dissect your disappointments and where they're coming from, even though they're real and you're feeling them. But once you see them in the light of God, you realize you're disappointed because you think that what you came up with is better than what God's got planned. Or whatever it is he does have planned is going to be terrible. And there is difficulty in walking with the Lord and all that, but there's difficulty in being alive. You might as well experience that difficulty with your best friend, with the Lord, and with, you know what I mean? And just in a place of hope and faith, confidently knowing that God will move, he will act, there will be breakthrough, there will be an eventual end to what you're going through, particularly if it's a difficult time.
Yeah.
LANA VAWSER, she came out with a word talking about the pressure before the promise. That was this week, right? Or recently?
We read a word.
Well, it's been hitting us this week.
Yeah, it really has.
You know what I mean?
Pressure.
It's just like, wow. And we've been reminded of it. The Spirit of God has reminded us of it a couple different times. It's the pressure before the promise. It's the pressure before the promise. And we have been feeling it. And so in the midst of the pressure comes, hey, this is how you handle the pressure. Surrender. Surrender to the Lord.
Yeah.
And
it's like the surrender even of disappointments, which actually the word that we read from LANA VAWSER, she was just talking about like the cycles of disappointment and things like that. And that's kind of what we were really feeling in this second half of the week, was just kind of these places of disappointment were getting stirred up again. And that's really where that pressure has been coming from, is like, hey, these are places, look, you're in the same cycle. Do you see that? And so when the enemy's coming at you, or even your soul's coming at you, and you're looking at situations like, man, this seems like it's never going to end.
It's just a merry-go-round.
It's just this cycle that
we don't
keeps
have
going
our
around.
hand on the button to stop it.
Yeah.
We're just on it.
And so it was just like, in that place, just continue to surrender to the Lord. Continue to say, you know what, God, you're still number one. I will just go before you and place my heart before you. And it was actually a really encouraging word. Maybe we can link it or whatever. Just about, that the Lord, he is coming to end those disappointment cycles. He's coming to fulfill his word, and that's really what it's based in, the cycle of disappointment, of expecting the word and not seeing it. Abraham and Sarah experienced that over and over and over and over again.
Wow.
Of just, hey, maybe this month is the month that Sarah will find out she's having a baby, and it just keeps going, and the answer is no, and
Joseph?
the answer is no.
I'm sure when he was elevated to Potiphar's house, he was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the moment. And the Lord's like, no, after this, you're actually going to go lower than you were before. You got up here. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
And that's when I believe that's the moment his soul entered the iron, because he was like, wow, I had it good there for a second. And it's kind of like when we were at the other hotel. It was like we got into the promised room, and we were like, this is amazing, and we're just living, we're just doing the things that we wanted to be doing, that we thought we should be doing, and the Lord was leading us to do those things. And then it was like, okay, COVID-19's hit, let's go here. And it's like, what? It's like, no, what are you doing? And it's like, so just because you get pulled back even further down you were before, that may be the arrow pull to release you to go further than you were getting ready to go. That's a freebie.
But then with Sarah, eventually God enabled her to receive the promise, and I'm sure she was delighted and surprised, but she really was. She was in this place of like, what? Like, this is now ending, this cycle of constant disappointment. Because trust me, that's got to be disappointing upon the heart, to go month after month, year after year, and then even for her to get to the point where
carrying
her body,
the promise the whole time.
Yeah, where her body,
it's like, dude,
and Abraham's body were as good as dead.
It says it was long dead.
Yeah, and so it's like, obviously, but they were still carrying this promise, and so there was something
without wavering, the scripture says.
Yeah, and so then they finally received the fulfillment of it, and so there's, I really believe that there is a healing that God wants to do in people's hearts by cutting off those cycles. And that's one of the other things that the Lord really brought up this week, especially at the end of the last couple of days. God was bringing up just his heart for healing. We actually, it was really cool. One of our God times that our son, he had...
Our 7-year-old.
Yeah, he had actually 2 visions, and both visions had to do with healing of the heart.
I think he had an open vision.
Yeah.
Because he was just standing right here, right where the camera is.
Yeah.
And he's just looking up.
Yeah.
He's just seeing stuff.
It was just amazing.
And you knew right away. You're like, ooh, he's seeing something. Leave him alone.
Yeah. I did. And so it was just really amazing. I mean, he shared everything, and it was, pertaining to our family and things like that. But it was all about healing the heart and how the Lord was going to come, and he's just going to bring healing to each of our hearts. And then actually that night, I ended up having 2 dreams about heart healing again. And I really felt like God was just sharing his own heart that's saying, I want to heal the hearts of my people. And so like with the, the Lord's like, I want to prepare you to receive my heart. And it's all about the lavish love of God coming upon us. But with that, I believe that the Lord is going to be healing hearts. And that really is just his focus right now, I believe, is to heal the hearts of his people, because he knows so many people have been in places of disappointment. There have been people who've waited a really long time. In my dream, there was 2 different people that I think it represented. There was one where there was a woman that she really needed relational healing. There had been wounds for her in a past relationship that was over, and there was just a lot of bitterness in her heart, and in the dream I was sitting next to her, and she was talking, and I turned and I was just like, wow, you really need healing for your heart. And she was kind of surprised by that. She didn't expect it. But at the same time, she was open to receive the word of God, because she just turned and was like, and I asked in the dream, like, can I pray for you? And she was just like, sure. And she just kind of put her hands together and kind of bowed her head, like, okay,
is this how you do this?
Is this what you do? Sure, you can pray for me. And so I was praying for her in the dream, and I could just tell her heart was changing, and that there was a healing that was going on. And then on top of that, there was the Lord then was like, all right, now she needs to forgive. And so I feel like there is, in that particular situation, I just believe that there are many people who have had just relational just trauma or issues, damage from the past, that God's like, I'm coming to heal that. But then also there is a need for forgiveness from that person, really to set their hearts free. And so that was one scenario, and that took place. And then there was another person at the table that we were sitting at, and that person was prophesying over her the things that the Lord was speaking. Now that she was healed, she was ready to go into the direction of the Lord.
Right.
And then in the second dream, it was another woman that I knew needed prayer as well. But her story was different. She started off with a word from the Lord, and it was like she had gone after what God was placing upon her heart, but it was like she just kept running into dead ends, and it never took off the ground. And so there was just a lot of disappointment there. And then she was just like, it was funny because in the dream I started writing the word responsibility. And that was kind of like, she just got to this point where it was like, okay, I've gone after the Lord. It's not working. There's no give here towards the direction that God had called her to. And she just had responsibilities that needed to take place. And so she just went ahead and went into the workforce and had been doing that for years. This was like decades. It was a very old, dream and vision that God had placed upon this woman, and so But when I was meeting her in the dream, it was at a point where it was like this transitional point of her life. I think it was as if she was leaving the job she had been at for a really long time, but was unsure of where to go next. And it was in this moment that God was meeting her and basically saying, like, I'm coming to release that dream that I'd given you many, many, many years ago. But the first thing that had to happen was, one, it was an unearthing. I felt like the dream had been buried and it had to get unearthed. It had to be uncovered. And then the second thing was that she really needed healing from the Lord for disappointment, because she was carrying the weight of disappointment for so long, because it was like this was something given to her by the Lord, and it had also affected her relationship with the Lord, because I knew in the dream that, you know, she still knew the Lord, but it was kind of a, I don't know, she just a familiarity with the Lord, but not like a deep relationship, like friendship, closeness, intimacy with the Lord. And it was like that needed to be healed. And then within that dream, I had seen, there were many parts to it. So, but within that dream, I had also been at a conference, and it was funny because there was this fire hydrant, and it was green, and it had been in water, but the water level had receded, so you could see the top of it, and I knew, like... So the fire hydrant was underwater. It was. And I really felt like God was reminding me of Noah and the ark, and how the ark, the waters receded, and once everything had receded and the ground was dry, then he let everyone out of the ark. And I felt like the fire hydrant actually represented was the vision and dream that God had given this woman, but it was, you know, a fire hydrant, nothing comes out of it unless it's opened, and so there's just all this water pressure, you know, underneath it. But it was almost like it wasn't the time for it, because there was just this, you know, there was a flood. It was clear that, okay, this water is receding. You don't need to open a fire hydrant. Crank open the fire hydrant. When there's a flood, yeah. It's like, that doesn't make sense. Let's add some water to the water. Yeah. And so for this woman, it was as if God had, you know, he had given her this vision and all that, but it was like she was the fire hydrant, and so it was closed off during this time where I just believe there was a, you know, like the water can represent like the judgment of the Lord, or just a time of separation. And God had, you know, she had gone into another field, or, you know, line of work, but through it all, it was like God was just keeping her safe. He was holding her still in the ark, kind of like steady in her place. Yeah, steady in her place. Yeah. She was well fed. She was, you know, clothed. You know, had the shelter and all of that. But now it was like God was coming to her in this moment of transition and saying, "Hey, now's the time. Let's unearth those things that I had placed upon your heart," because he was getting ready to open her fire hydrant. And it was just going to, you know, when you open a fire hydrant, that water just shoots out. So I felt like it represented just the Spirit of God was going to be ready to just actually move in her life. But in order for her to get there, there had to be a healing that needed to take place. A healing of her heart, where she would have that deep, intimate relationship with the Lord, where the issues had been resolved, and so she would be able to flow with the Spirit of God. And that was basically those two dreams. And I really feel like they just represent people's hearts, and really God's heart, to say, I know that there are many people out there who need healing, who need God to come in. And there's certain moments in their life that he's going to come in and say, let's bring healing, so that they can go into the very thing that the Lord has for them. And this morning, actually, right before our video, I was just kind of thinking about the surrender and just kind of God's heart for healing. And I was reminded of 1 Corinthians 13 and the beginning few verses where Paul is basically talking about, like, if you don't have love, it doesn't matter what you give. You can be the best prophet ever. You could give your body to be burned. You can give everything you have to the poor and all of those, but it basically means nothing. It's like this loud, noisy symbol to the Lord without love. And I believe God is saying, like, he wants to have our hearts understand and know his love, so that when we go forth, because he is getting ready to release his spirit, that when we go forth, it's out of a heart of love, and then that means everything, because it's coming from God. It's coming from a place where we really truly understand we're no longer servants, we're sons of the King, we're daughters of the King, and we know that we're loved, we're secure in that, we're grounded in that. We've understood the depths of his heart and how much he's loved us. And so I think that really will enable us. There is a depth of surrender that you can have as a servant, or surrendering to the master and what they want. But there is a whole nother level of surrender when you love a person. The depth to which you will go for that person. And and so it's like, I really feel like God is like, I'm going to come and love on my people and heal their pain, heal their wounds. And in that process, is our hearts are going to respond with hearts of such deep surrender that is needed for this next move of
healing.
God. And I believe it's really needed for this next move of God. I believe that God's people, we need to be so firm in the foundation of his love for us and really understanding it, because then our hearts will be able to move with the Lord, because we're unafraid. That's what 1 John 4 talks about. It's 18 through like 19ish, around there, where it's saying, like, if we still have fear, then we haven't come to fully understand the love of God, and there's still growth and maturity in that place. And I really believe, like, there is a maturity that God can bring us to with his love. But I think as just being here on earth, we are constantly growing in maturity with the Lord. And I just believe this time in particular is a move of God where he is really trying to mature us in his love, where he's going to demonstrate his love in a way that many of us have never ever experienced before in our life. And it's going to touch our hearts to just be in a place where we can really just freely surrender. You can have a work of surrendering where it's like, okay, Lord, I am choosing to surrender. But then there's also that place of, I'm surrendering because I just love.
Right.
It's like, yes, I will do this because I love you.
Yeah.
And it's very different. And so that's just kind of something I really feel like God is doing as well. It's just that he's preparing us, and
that's interesting,
to bring forth just healed hearts, and hearts that are going to be surrendered to him, out of love.
So that the dreams can be awakened. And activated. And go forth. And that thing that you thought was dead and it never worked out, and et cetera, you can go back to it 100 times stronger than what you tried to be back then. You know what I'm saying? And it's like me and the writing. The Lord had me start doing the writing, and even as I was doing YouTube, even when you came along, I was still, we're trying to get our books sold and our t-shirts and all that stuff, and it's like the Lord's like, I see your heart, this is great, but it's like, let's stop that now, and now I'm going to bring you two together on the writing, and then when that gets released, you're going to be 10 times greater than what you tried to do before, but you'll still be able to use what you did before, and not only that, but all your entrepreneurial ideas, let me add some stuff to it. And it's like, and now at this point, and we haven't even been released to that yet, we've had little
moments,
oasis moments where God was like, this is kind of what it's gonna be like, you get this, all right, cool, okay, let's be done. And it's like, what? It's like, I thought we were going, and it's like, we were going to this point, and now we're done. Let's
Yeah.
go over here.
Yep.
And so the Lord wants that. He's like, He wants to add. He wants the dream that He's put in your heart to come to full term.
Yes.
And be a fully developed, healthy thing. You know, if there's bitterness, unforgiveness, you know, the constant wounds of disappointment, death by 1,000 disappointment cuts, you know, all that stuff's got to get healed and taken care of.
Yeah.
So that you can go. You can be Naaman, and you can just be awesome in battle. You can be, but you got to be constantly covered up, and you know, it's like the Lord's like, I don't want that for you.
Yeah.
You know, and He wants us to be totally healed. You know.
Yeah.
Which comes through the surrender, so that our dreams can be awakened. The dreams that He's put in us can be awakened, and then His kingdom can go forth, and His glory can shine forth on the earth, and just have everyone see it and make a decision. Do you want this or the life you have right now? You know what I mean? Do you want to know the Lord, or do you want to just keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you said it before, earlier this week we were talking, and just that why it's so important for the healing, because it's like you don't want a leaven of just disappointment or bitterness or any of those things that are hurting you, you know, that you need healing from, to come into the new thing that the Lord is doing. And because that can really just,
it will contaminate the
it
whole
will
thing.
contaminate it.
Yeah.
You know, it would be no different if you're drinking water but it has contaminants in it, and maybe you don't even notice it at first.
It's 99% spring water. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
It's got 1% animal feces. I mean, come on, no one's even gonna taste it. They're not even gonna know it's there unless we tell them. Come on, it's no big deal.
But
worse things happen in the food industry. Trust me. You thought that was gross? Go work in a restaurant. You'll never eat a restaurant again.
No, but
so
just
moving on.
So anyway, like I was saying, but it's like you can be drinking from that water for years and not noticing, but then suddenly your body starts to develop symptoms. Suddenly you're just like, you have issues, and you're wondering why are these issues here, and you can come to find out, wow, your water, there's contaminants in it,
lead in
and
it.
That's causing your body to shut down. And it's like the Lord doesn't want that even with His people. He wants to have us be fully healed, fully secure and grounded upon Him, so that when His Spirit flows through us, we're able to just run with Him. We don't have those weights. We don't have just burdens and scars and wounds anymore. And it's like you're completely healed. You're made whole and made new.
Yeah.
And so that we can finish the work that God has placed upon our hearts, and so that He can revive those things, the dreams that He's put upon us, and go forth. And I just believe that God is getting ready to really pour Himself out upon His people and enable us to just go forward in those dreams and go after everything that He's put upon our hearts to do. And but it's like, that's why the preparation is needed. That's why I think in particular this year is like, He's like, this is what I'm part of what I'm working on and doing in the lives of my people, is I'm preparing them to be able to move forward with me.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Did you have anything else?
Nope. Act 1, Scene 18.
Yep.
That's what it's about.
Yes, it's about...
How am I going to title this one? I don't know.
I don't know, but...
Apparently you found out. If you made it this far.
No, but so that's really what we have for you guys. You know, just that the Lord really is speaking preparation of our hearts. He is speaking healing over our hearts. He is also speaking just the breaking off of old cycles, and just really having us come into a time where He's awakening and reviving, raising back to life dreams and visions in people's hearts that have been there for a long time, or have just been covered up with woundedness. And God's like, I'm going to release all of those things off of you. I'm going to bring healing, and then I'm going to flow through you and send you into places that honestly you could have never imagined going.
And the surrender will be joyous.
It will.
It'll be willing. It'll be like, why would I want to do anything else?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you think surrender and you go, oh, that means this. It's like, yeah, see, that's why you need healing right there.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because you really don't know. If you really knew, all you'd want to do is surrender.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So.
Yeah, so that's all we have for you guys, and we pray that you are blessed.
Yes.
And we will see you again real soon.
Love you guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.